Good evening. I'm Jeannie Long, Executive Director of Chicago Collections Consortium. I'm excited to welcome you tonight to a discussion with Chicago's new directors. I'm filling in for CCC's board chair, Ellen Keith, who was scheduled to moderate tonight's discussion, but unfortunately is having some technical difficulties. Chicago Collections is proud to be partnering again with the Black Metropolis Research Consortium, whose mission is to connect all who seek to document, share, and understand and preserve the Black experience. We'd like to begin tonight's program with CCC's Land Acknowledgement Statement, which reads, Chicago Collections Consortium acknowledges and is grateful for the Native peoples who laid the foundation for the city of Chicago and for the diverse Indigenous nations that reside in Chicago today. When you visit our member organizations and when you experience Chicago outdoor spaces, we invite you to join in offering respect and gratitude to the many Indigenous people that reside in the Chicagoland region, as well as their ancestors. For those of you who are joining us for the first time tonight, Chicago Collections is a consortium comprised of libraries, museums, and cultural organizations, all working together for the preservation and promotion of Chicago's history and culture. Now, we do that through the sharing of collections through our Explore portal, which provides free and open access to these unique archival collections. So please jump online and check out the Explore portal. Additionally, we invite you to come on to Chicago's website and look at upcoming programs being offered by Chicago Collections. But additionally, you can jump on our YouTube channel and see those that we've offered in the past or those that you'd like to rewatch again. We'd also like to thank CCC's generous sponsors shown here for their support and that allows us to offer free virtual programming like tonight's discussion, in addition to supporting our efforts with the Explore Chicago Collections portal. I also invite you to jump on our website, not only to learn more about Chicago Collections, but also visit the Black Metropolis Research Consortium as well by jumping on the websites shown here. So I'm very excited to be having the conversation tonight with the new Chicago directors shown here, Sumaya Ahmed, Deborah Kastendorf, Astrida Tentilo, and Jinfeng Che. So let's begin and we'll dive in and we'll start with introductions. And I'll let each of you have the opportunity to share a little bit about yourself. But Deborah, let's start with you.
Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you again for inviting Evanston History Center. I'm the executive director. This is the panel of new or new-ish directors. I just completed my first year as a director of the History Center. I moved here from New York and New Jersey. The last 10 years, I've been in the cultural space, the nonprofit cultural space, and before that, I was a for-profit marketing person and made that switch again about 10 years ago and really haven't looked back.
Sumaya Ahmed, please share.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sumaya Ahmed. I am the executive director of the Black Metropolis Research Consortium. I began that position in January of this year. Prior to that, I was teaching in the field of archives management, and library and information science schools. I'm originally from Chicago. I'm very happy to be back and to be contributing to the field of archives in, to me, a very exciting way. So thanks for the invitation.
And we'll look forward to partnering with you even more in the days ahead. Astrida, please.
Good evening, and again, thank you very much for coming this evening. I am Astrida Tantillo. I'm president and librarian of the Newberry Library, and I started on December 1st of last year. And before I came to the Newberry, I was a professor of Germanic Studies and History, and for over 10 years, I was dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences at the University of Illinois at Chicago. I just quickly want to say one of the great joys is when I tell people now I'm a librarian, what like a happy reaction I get whether it's a cab driver or just somebody who just says, hey, what do you do? And so it's really great to be here tonight.
Wonderful. Jin Feng?
Hello, everybody. Jeannie, I want to thank you very much for inviting me to represent the Dominican University. I am the university librarian at the Dominican University. I joined the university in early of this year. I am so happy that I made this decision because when I made a decision, I received several offers. I decided to come here, and I am so glad to know this group of people, my colleagues, who are making contribution, who are working together. I am happy to be part of this. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you all for joining us. So let's begin. You each have joined your organizations fairly recently, as you've shared, but talk to us about what aspects about the mission of your organizations that attracted you, and what would, and what you would like us to know about your organizations and institutions. We'll go in the order of introduction. So Deborah.
Well, thank you. So, really the whole field of history and humanities and archives attracted me to the Evanston History Center. I do have a love of humanities and literature and history. I think I was specifically attracted to the idea that in the moment that we are in, and that we even were in a year ago when I joined, that archives and artifacts and collections really have this opportunity to connect with people and be incredibly relevant right now. And that's what excited me then and what excites me now about the exhibitions and the programming and the work that we were doing around our archives to make it more accessible, is that really everything we're doing is to be as topical and relevant as possible. And it's been remarkably easy to do that. Recently, we showed a documentary of a famous suffragette in Evanston and her work, but we then launched from the screening of the documentary into a panel of 4 young women from high school to probably mid-30s who are female activists in Evanston now. And they jumped from the subject of this crusader for women's right to vote into their different areas so seamlessly. And it was really gratifying to see how much her story from decades ago was touching these women today and was encouraging them and motivating them. So that's something that the Evanston History Center is really focused on, is how can we be relevant? How can history matter? And there are so many ways, I'm finding out. So I was attracted to that, and it continues to be really fun and I think interesting. We also really are looking at ourselves as a place that can encourage civic engagement, which is not difficult in Evanston, but to even go deeper with that and to have everyone feel like the history of the city is important to them and part of them and relevant. So.
Well, and just to add, I thought it was wonderful how at that event you had the opportunity to register voters as well. So really reaching out to the community and the moment at hand too. So
Yeah, there was a strong get out to vote message at the event with the League of Women Voters, and yeah, great partnerships. And that's another thing that we're really working on, is involving so many different audiences and coming to them, meeting them where they are. And obviously, last month that was quite the occasion to talk about the power to vote and to register anyone that hadn't registered yet.
wonderful. Sumaya?
Yeah, so as I said, I was teaching in the field of archives and library information science. That was, my doctorate is in, and was relatively happy teaching a new generation of archivists and librarians and people who are going to go off and do other things with the skills they learn in library school. But when I saw the opportunity to come to the Black Metropolis Research Consortium, I literally could not sleep that night because it meant multiple things for me. It meant being able to come home to Chicago, where I'm from, where my great-grandparents came in the 1930s from Alabama and Mississippi, part of the Great Migration. It also meant being able to do something I didn't feel I was doing in the classroom, which was really making archives relevant to people of color, and really making connections between archival collections and real life, the real lives of people. So the Black Metropolis Research Consortium, for people who are not familiar with it, was started, officially incorporated in 2006, actually on March 27th, which is my birthday. So I took that as a sign as well. I didn't learn that until later, but obviously is the result of a lot of conversations and thinking that happened years before that. And we have the archives to prove it. And the idea is that the Black Metropolis Research Consortium, which is this consortium of now 26 members. We have some of, I think almost everyone on this call is a member, actually. We'll get to the Evanston History Center soon. But we have these three-pronged, maybe four-pronged mission, which is, to locate the archives that our members have or that potential members have that are relevant to the Black experience or Black experiences in the Chicagoland area. So Black can be African American, other different kinds of African diaspora, but also then like to activate those records. And so, make them have, let people have access to them, know about them, use them, and use them in their work and whatever kind of work they do. But also, even from the very beginnings, one of the missions of the BMRC was also to make sure that we get more people of color in the field of archives and libraries, and needing that perspective and that voice. And this is something that we're still working on. And also then, we're also very much steeped in the field of history, and we have fellowships that let scholars and artists do research in BMRC member archives and produce these great books or works of art. But we also want to put the stories out there, right? We want to we want to be able to speak openly about Black history and Black experiences. And so this is what drew me to that. This is something that I didn't feel I was being able to do where I was at. And so just really excited to be able to do that in Chicago.
Welcome home.
Thank you.
Estrida?
So I will say that when I was at the University of Illinois at Chicago, I was really excited about the overall mission there, which was about access to excellence, especially to students from underserved communities. And as Dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, I was really happy to promote the liberal arts and sciences broadly understood. But when the opportunity at the Newberry came up and I could focus on the humanities, which has always been my primary interest and passion, and to do it at an institution that for its 137-year history has been really committed to that public free access. And recently I was looking at a Tribune article from 1893 when our building opened, and it emphasized however great the collections were that the Newberry aimed to be a live educational center. And so I'm really excited to be working with our exceptional staff. And I will say, if I have to talk about why I'm excited to be at the Newberry, it's not just because of the collections, which are amazing, or the public mission, but we have a staff that is wonderful and excellent and really is committed to making our collections widely accessible to an ever-growing public. And if somebody says, well, what do you really want people to know about the Newberry? I would say we have an excellent staff and collections, but we also have exhibitions and public programs and adult education. And so I'm really excited that we are continuing this live educational center. So that is why I'm excited to be at Newberry.
And you're coming from a unique perspective for Chicago collections in the sense of the Newberry and University of Illinois Chicago were the co-founding institutions of Chicago Collections Consortium. So we have a very soft spot in our heart for you, your role there. So
And I have to say that it's been really great knowing Mary Case's history here. And I actually just saw her this evening at another event. And of course, David Spadafora. It really does seem to a wonderful way of having two worlds coming together.
It's great. Jin Feng?
Like what I said in my introduction, when I decided to come here at Dominican University, I had several offers. The reason for me to take this position at the Dominican University, I guess there are several reasons. The first reason is because of the university as a Catholic university that carries out the Dominican tradition, so that people work together here on campus. And the second reason for me to pick this institution is because of its Hispanic serving institution status, which is very important as we value diversity. We have different groups of students here on campus. Another reason for me to pick this university is that Dominican University is a growing university. It's been 3 years in a row. We have increased number of enrollment. We're very happy about this. When I work in the library here, I feel this student-centered atmosphere here. Give me an example. We are not a big library, but our library has had almost 40 student workers, both graduate students and undergraduate students. They are working with us. They are helping us. They make great contribution to the success of the library here. At Dominican University, if we talk about collections, for example, like archival collections, it's a small university, but we have two archives. One is the university archive. One is what we call the McGrail Center for Dominican tradition for Catholic. It's a wonderful collection alongside with the university collection. I'm so glad that I joined this institution with a group of people who are very creative, who like to have collaborative projects. Beyond the institution, when I have an opportunity to work with my colleagues across different institutions in the Chicago area, that would be my honor to work with. Thank you.
Well, let's dive in on the topic of leadership, which is quite important. And let's discuss, can you share your philosophy of leadership, and how are you enacting within your role at your institution, your philosophy of your leadership? Deborah?
Thank you. I think my philosophy is to be strategic and also encourage participation among, we're a small staff. And by that, I mean, when I started a year ago, fairly quickly, we entered a new strategic planning process. And one person asked me on staff, do strategic plans even work? And, that it was a good, honest question. I think there can be skepticism about that. And I took the question and talked about how in the past I have really worked to make strategic plans actionable. Ours is a 3-year plan, which I think a lot of people are doing now. 5 years is a long ways away. And to really break it down so that it can be remembered easily as you're walking through the hall. It's a 1-page, and the way that I try to keep strategic goals at the top, but also to be very open participatory, is that this plan was approved in June at our board meeting. We talk about it all the time. So we have staff meetings that are every other week, and we can pull out that one page and look at specific initiatives that people are working on and talk about, how they're doing, if we're making strides, if we're not, why. So I think that that's an example of how I'm attempting to keep at a level that people understand why are we working on something, because it is towards certain strategic goals, but also being very open and encouraging a lot of participation. So our conversations at our staff meetings are really conversations. And I, the greatest compliment that I have received and like to receive is, you make up your mind pretty quick, but you will listen. And there are, I think of myself as a decisive person and sort of pride myself on that. But also, I am real ready to say, that's a really good point. Yes, we should do that. So I think that describes my style.
But truly using that strategic plan as a roadmap and sticking to it.
And I mean, I know we all know this in this Zoom room, but it's also just so helpful for prioritizing what you're going to do, but also being able to say what you're not going
Yeah,
to do.
right. Exactly. Sumaya?
Right. So for me, leadership has there's a lot at stake because the sense of the work that I'm doing with the Black Metropolis Research Consortium as a Black person, there's a sense of leading for legacy, as this is the term, right? So thinking about not just what is in front of us for that day and the work or for this month and this year, but understanding that we are part of not just the history of the Black Metropolis Research Consortium, but part of legacies before us for documenting Black history in the United States or Black history globally. So one of the things I try to lead with generosity and a sense of abundance in terms of also of resources, meaning that I understand that people working with me, I want them to sense that I'm not just thinking about, or we're not just thinking about what needs to get done, but also building them up, preparing them for the future. This also their future is also part of the legacy. And so for me, it's about creating dynamic programming and programs and projects that have effect beyond us, but also the people that we're working with, also building them up so that they can grow and move beyond. But so that this idea of legacy is often a part of how I'm working with people, whether or not those people are actually the staff of the BMRC, and actually as having such a small staff means that we work with a lot of volunteers or the public. And so that's also all of those interactions. It's really important to kind of lead and really, a lot of people come to us for advice about what to do about their own archival materials that they have at home, or whether or not students come to us about wanting to go into the field and should they do that. So there's always a sense of come from a place of abundance and generosity, that there is enough to go around, that there is time to talk to people and share with them, and that that we're all kind of getting to thinking about those who come after us. So
No, and you had said coming from Chicago too, and we had talked about this prior to going live, that it is a Midwestern thing too, of having that openness and sharing. So no, I completely agree with you.
thank you.
Strita?
I would say that especially not having been in the world of libraries before coming to the Newberry, I thought one of the most important things was trying to listen and trying to learn as much as possible. And so one of the first things that I did when I started was to attend a staff meeting of every unit within the library, just to kind of get a sense of what the concerns were, what the priorities are, what the different cultures were, because in the Newberry we have different divisions and each division is a little bit different. So research and education is very similar to what one would encounter in a university. The collections and library services is a little bit different, or public engagement. And so I thought that that was one of the best ways of learning what I didn't know. And I think that even though I've been here almost a year, I still have this great sense of every day or every week can be this adventure. And so I think one of the things I try to do at least every week, that sometimes even more, is just to walk the 5 floors of the Newberry, to walk into the various offices, just to see how people are doing, just to see what is going on in order to learn. And I think trying to be transparent with what I learn and trying to build teams, I think, across the various divisions. So those have been some of my goals in the first year.
But you get the pulse of the institution too by being available and people seeing you.
And getting some of those steps in too.
Yes. A lot of stairs at the Newberry too, so added bonus. Jin Feng?
I view leadership as something that we can look at it from different perspective. The first part of leadership is about vision. My colleagues have already talked about strategic planning, about those. I guess as a leader, you need to be aware of new development trends in academic libraries or libraries where you're working for. You need to know the future of your libraries. Today we have a technology that has moved so fast. We talk about AI, and yesterday we talk about digitization. We have so much that we need to work with. Therefore, I guess vision is very important for you to be a leader. The second part of my view of leadership is about management. You manage a group of people, no matter how many people you are working with. You need to develop your management skills. Either you talk about transparency, or you talk about fairness, or you talk about how to manage your people, how to work with your people, how to listen to them, to their concerns and their recommendations, how to put them together. That is very important because we are working with the people every day. We as leaders, we work on these daily operations. And the third part of leadership, from my understanding, is about participation and collaboration. You work as a leader, you are one of them. You need to be working with them to develop something innovative, to develop something that can align with your institutional goals, with your library's goals, so that you will be able to put your library at the core of your business. I guess one of the examples is just like when I talk about previously I was interrupted by people here in the library. You can see the activities that we have, all library staff, we have brought to the library, how interactive we have, what kind of, services, spaces, and activities were all brought up together. And you can see people interact with each other. That's why we say, hey, we have activities here, we have, something there. I think putting them together, that's something that we view as a leader, we view as the style of leadership that we need to have.
And that cross collaboration just, brings more power too with staff members too. So
Great.
thank you for that. Let's talk about the topic now of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how in the libraries and organizations, how that's being addressed. What has happened, what is currently planned, some of those efforts. And we can take it off the 60-minute format of point counterpoint here and just open it up for discussion. That's something, I'll speak for Chicago Collections Consortium, something that our efforts are driven for. And Sumaya had mentioned this, we're to further the field in providing, paid internships, being able to work with organizations to even support the idea of what it means to be a librarian or an archivist, that those careers exist, furthering it that way, but also tapping and growing our membership that could, and not even having them come on as members, but if we could lend advice or support for other smaller cultural organizations in the city too. But we certainly keep that in mind in our efforts at Chicago Collections.
I think a history center, and we are a history center housed in a historic home that is beautiful and intimidating at the same time. We are in the lakefront area of Evanston. The legacy of the home is um, the vice president to Calvin Coolidge, so a white man with quite a bit of influence in his time. And so we have, and everyone has their unique situations, but we are blessed with this space, and it's also, again, as I said, can be an intimidating space. And so while we're working on the things that I think all of us are working on in terms of being role models, looking at the makeup of our board, etc., we're specifically working on a project with our permanent collection that is upstairs in the house that was put together 20 years ago. And it uses much of sort of our most popular, valued, sort of the cream of the collection pieces are in this exhibition that tells the story of the history of Evanston. So it's 20 years old, and it was at the time created a bit insular without a lot of community participation. It was also, because it is 20 years old, by just nature of the age of it, misses a key story in Evanston about reparations and being the first city in the United States to actually pass and pay out reparations. And the woman that has led that, a past alderperson of Evanston, is amazing and actually becoming a thought leader, not just nationally, but internationally about this. So putting Evanston on the map, if you will. And we really want to include that story in the exhibition as well. So we are at the very beginning stages of this, but it's a big project in an exciting way that I think it can have a lot of impact. It can change our reputation. It can change the partnerships and the relationships that we have throughout the community, but also with our audiences. So you can cross your fingers for us. We are applying to an IMLS grant that is due this week to fund the actual planning part of it, and to work with various community organizations to ensure that we are telling a more complete story. So just a specific initiative that's on my mind that I think can have some long-lasting impact.
Great. And speaking of intimidating buildings, the Newberry is certainly one, but kudos, Street, that it's the marketing campaign is so welcoming and inviting for multi-generational visitors, which is really exciting.
And I will say that I have two main goals as president, and that is to make the Newberry more known and more broadly used. And so our tagline is open more than doors, and we certainly want to do that. And I think I was really glad to see that this was going to be one of the questions, because again, the Newberry in various different ways has really been trying to incorporate aspects of DEI into almost every aspect of its operations. And I think what's been really wonderful and remarkable and ought to be celebrated is, like, from the staff, from the ground up, in a variety of different ways. And I will say we have developed by staff members an inclusive teaching toolkit in order to help all staff members, whether they are working with public engagement or teacher education programs, or just dealing with patrons that come in to use our resources, how we can be a more inclusive space. We have diversity, equity, and inclusion staff group that it meets frequently to also talk about how we can work on things, whether it's accessibility, broadly understood, or whether we can have staff development to help staff understand everything from neurodivergence to making sure that we have visitors who are perhaps visibly challenged, how they can feel more welcome. In terms of our collections, we have a committee that looks at how we can be more diverse in terms of making sure that our collections and how we collect in the future represent communities and groups that have been historically marginalized. And that goes from whether we're collecting from medieval and Renaissance times until collecting what we're doing today. I think perhaps many people know that the Newberry has one of the best indigenous collections of North and South America. And we've tried really hard and continue to work very collaboratively, with our tribal and community partners to make sure that we are responsible with culturally sensitive materials, that we represent traditional knowledge within the cataloging. We've been working hard to redo many of the ways things are cataloged because they might not have been done in ways that are acceptable. And we want to make sure that the way that we do things are welcoming and to fix things that might not have been done so in the past. And so those are just some of the ways that we're all working together to try it. And I'll just give a pitch for our current exhibition, Indigenous Chicago, looking at Chicago, that it always has been and always will be an Indigenous place. And so I just want to welcome everyone to come to the Newberry for that.
And the incredible exhibit that's up and related programming that we've been so proud to share too. So yeah,
And I
everyone
just,
should take a look.
one other quick plug is that we're also providing a lot of resources for teachers, and we have a free teacher program for Chicago public school teachers, and we're trying to provide the cultural and online resources for teachers who are teaching, especially Indigenous studies or Asian American history, both of which are now required.
Anything else to add?
I can say that, the Black Metropolis Research Consortium is often, as you probably won't be surprised to hear, called into different kind of relationships to be the diversity or to be a consultant about how to make something, more appealing to diverse groups. And once again, thinking about that, the commitment to all of our different stakeholders and the legacy that we're trying to continue. We have to go, so there's an internal diversity that I think we try to focus on, and then I hope to focus on more, which is diversity of Black experiences within the Chicago area. So the BMRC focuses primarily on Chicagoland, which some people use that term. So really looking to see that there are different kinds of Black experiences and even diaspora experiences, whether or not that's from the Caribbean or Latin America, South America, or even Afro-Indigenous people, or as people coming directly from the continent of Africa. So being conscious of not pigeonholing what it means to be Black in Chicago, that's one part of our diversity initiative. But at the same time, when we are part of larger relationships and are asked to kind of be or contribute to the discussions about how to improve things, we're conscious of trying to stay away from tokenism and to think about programming and projects that really have material or benefit for people, and that can be sharing of resources or at least sharing of some kind of societal status. And so we all know in this room that the field of libraries and information science is overwhelmingly not representative of the United States, of the population. And so one of the ways that we're really trying to push that is to just really look for ways that the BMRC can support diversity of the field, whether or not that's paid internships or just going out and explaining to people what exactly this field is about. But really at the end of the day, for me personally, and I'm speaking just as Sumaya, DEI has to be about creating spaces that people want to be in. And I think oftentimes our institutions have failed at that. And so the BMRC loves to be part of kind of thinking with people as about how do we create spaces, institutions, libraries, archives that people want to be in. And so I think this is what I would say about that.
Agree, and I think it's all our responsibilities to further that field, like you said, and I had shared in terms of paid internships or even welcoming and making it known.
Well, Dominican University was created by sisters. Therefore, from the beginning, diversity and inclusion were the core value of the institution. Now, the institution has done a lot of work in promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. And one of the initiatives is that some faculty and students are working with archival material so that they will be able to use AI technology to create such videos that the system can imitate sisters talking, displaying archival materials, making those materials live, very much interactive as a way to continue our tradition in the effort of diversity and inclusion. For the library, because we are an institution that is serving Hispanic students, we try very hard to work on a collection of Hispanic related, including books and materials in the language, as well as materials related to teaching content for classes in such topics as cultural sensitivity, as Hispanic related materials. So we try to build such a collection so that we will be able to work with the instructors to support our mission in serving minority groups. We have a large percentage of student population in Hispanic background. We also have a large population of African American students. But at the same time, we have students of different backgrounds. From the library, we try to work with them so we will be able to work together to build such a program that really showcase our value so that we continue our value. Thank you.
Here's an open question. We're all feeling the lasting impact of the pandemic. How are your organizations dealing with that? And this will be something we'll be feeling for some time to come, but can you share, your thoughts and the effects on your organization and how you plan to deal with that?
Well, let me get started so that my colleagues can talk a little bit more about this. I have to say that I am not 100% aware of the strategies that my institution has already taken during COVID, because I joined the institution only from the early of this year. But I have to say that when we talk about the strategies working for COVID, we talk about the negative things, the negative impact that COVID has brought to our practice. But I want to highlight some positive side of this. One of this is It's the flexibility that we have in terms of in terms of our work schedule. This is this give I guess give our staff the opportunity to develop something new, to develop something different, so that we can serve our users from different perspectives by considering different types of schedule and different types of work. And another positive side of this is, as we all know, is about online. It's just like this event. We all talk through Zoom. We all talk, from different locations. I guess we had that before COVID, but COVID actually I think speed up this development, giving us the flexibility to talk to each other. This also give librarians and library staff a way to think about how can we serve our students and the faculty in terms of supporting their teaching and learning through different different ways of communication. And I guess this is the positive side of COVID that has brought it to us, to our practice.
And on that, when the pandemic hit, I had told Chicago Collections Board, we were built for a pandemic, not that we ever wanted to experience it, of course, but the online resources and how to make those even that much more accessible, and that adaptation of your own staff in that. And I think that the consortial model of everybody across the city was in that conversation of, how do we cope? How do we deal with it? And again, that sharing of information.
Well, you connect this topic to the previous question about DEI, the equal access to information, to material. And yes, that is very important. By having technology, now we are able to provide access as broad as possible to different groups of people. That's diversity. Answer to diversity question. That is also something about the pandemic.
I do feel like with the our virtual programming, it has brought in viewers across the world, frankly, and then having the ability to record and share that. What's been interesting for us is then when we do have, on the occasion of an in-person gathering, it's that much more richer for you. It's very precious. And to see someone in real time and having that appreciation for that too. But certainly the comfort if you're in a meeting on your sofa at home or something like that can't be, is very easy for sure. So, and what about others?
Well, I do think a challenge of that, though, is from the audience perspective that there's this greater expectation, and many of us are small organizations, or we're all strapped for resources, but there's this greater expectation from the audience that you're going to have a whole variety you're going to have a whole menu for me for when I want to tune in from, at home, or if I do want to come in person. And so the reality is that you're doing twice as much as you were before. And I think that in my previous organization and roles on the East Coast and now here, it is something that we're still trying to figure out of really how much of each option do you provide your
That
audience.
balance.
Balance. I think you can articulate it simply of like we're figuring out the balance, but it is it's difficult, and I think that our audiences don't yet maybe even know how much in person do they want to come versus how much do they want to come to a Zoom. So a new challenge that's come out of it.
Exactly.
Since we are new, we were not in these positions when the pandemic began. I wish the pandemic was over, but I think we still have, we're struggling with it. And one of the issues that we see is that sometimes we still have a group of people in the audience who don't feel comfortable in public events, still don't feel comfortable in public events. So one thing that I see that, once again, one of these advantages is the hybrid events, you know, can be technologically a little bit challenging sometimes, but as you said, help us reach a much larger audience than we generally are would get for in-person events. Although when we had in-person event in March, people will tell us that they drove from this state and drove from that state. So people, I think, are very hungry for this specific kind of knowledge and community that our organizations can provide. And so you will find people actually making the trip to Chicago from other places because of what we do have to offer is so special. And I'm speaking not just about the BMRC, but all of the institutions on this call. I think the hybrid is something that obviously that's probably here to stay. But for instance, next week we have 2 in-person events that are not going to be recorded and not going to be streamed. And I'm okay with that. I think they fit the nature of what people will be discussing and the community of that area. And then later on, we'll have other, and the same, I think tomorrow we have another event that will be online. So knowing that, there's different parts of the community and different constituencies, and that you don't have to do, and it's okay. I think sometimes we have to, right now, I feel that one of the effects of the pandemic is to be okay to sometimes tell people, no, I'm sorry, it won't be online and it won't be streamed. And sometimes that's also because people involved.
Right.
Sometimes it's also because people involved don't want to be recorded. They don't want to be on YouTube. So I think we just have to kind of take each each event and each project, and make a decision about what feels the best for everyone involved. Yeah.
And I will just quickly say, on one hand, it's just very exciting to see how many more people, like I think last year, 100 people from 156 different countries accessed our digital collections. And so it's really exciting to see that. At the same time, we're getting a lot more questions of, why do you need a library if everything's digitized? And so I think that leads to the excitement of being able to bring people for a collection presentation and show them that in person. But then, of course, you need to get them into the doors in order to convey the excitement and what difference it makes to actually hold the object in your hand.
And speaking of objects, I have one question. We're going to be short on time, unfortunately, but can each of you share with our audiences like your favorite discoverable item within your organization, your collection, like what a visitor might find that would be of complete interest and almost surprise too.
I can jump in with that because it's an easy one for me. Certainly, it surprises people that we have such an extensive costume collection. So it's
Is
over
it the second largest in the state, or
yes,
which is amazing.
It's over 20,000 items of clothing from decades, including ball gowns to everyday wear that either people it was made in Evanston or it was worn by someone in Evanston. But so while that's, Jeannie, that's not one single piece, but as a collection, I know I've told this story to some of you before, but when I started, the curator asked me if I wanted to see the costumes, and I said yes. And I went up into the attic, which is not available for the public to see. And I mean, I was overwhelmed in a good way and thought we really need to do something to showcase this more and have people know more about it. So I think that definitely still surprises people, and we're working on that. But it's really a glorious part of the History Center is that particular collection.
And I'm going to steal Sumaya's thunder by just jumping in and saying with BMRC that the scholars that have come through as fellows, and then you find out, oh, I was a BMRC fellow, and that to me is really exciting in terms of where people started, what access to the collections, and furthering their research on topics that are shared even more broadly and widely. So, but Sumaya, I'll let you speak for yourself.
Yeah, I think the fellows are great, and I wish we would do more. I've met people recently who tell me, the fellowship has led to like 3 publications. So we definitely need to do more to show where people go from BMRC. But I think, since we are a consortium, right, we are made up of members who have collections. We don't hold collections. This actually comes to a surprise for the public. We have people actually knocking on our door asking to see things or emailing to see things. But one of the things, I think the thing that's great is we do have the BMRC archives portal, which allows people to see some of the things that are in our members' collections. And I just sat down the other day with someone, and just the fact that they can kind of we can be kind of a one-stop shop for things related to Black Chicago history at different Chicago organizations. I think that really has blown some people away when we try to show them, okay, look, okay, this topic that you have, these are all the different institutions in Chicago that have that. And so having our portal, I think, is really a great benefit, and we're trying to make it more robust and more representative of what our different members hold.
And I will just say that when I get asked that question a lot, and it's always what I last saw, because there's almost every week there's some new object that I discover or some new object that we obtain. And so whether it's, and right now we recently received a grant from the Getty to do projects of items that are printed on fabric. And I think one of my favorite objects is a dedication that was done to a cardinal in Mexico in the 17th century, printed on silk and printed by a woman printer. And so it's just one of these things that combines all these fantastic things that Newberry has.
It's amazing.
Both of our archive collections have extensive collections of Dominican history, but the Catholic history here in Chicago and across the country. Those are the strength of our archival collections. We welcome people to use our collection to have a collaborative project to do research, and we will be very happy to work with people. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you all for taking the time for our discussion tonight. And thank you to our listeners. As mentioned, this is being recorded, and we'll share it with all those who registered, as well as posting on our YouTube channel. But hopefully we sparked interest to our listeners, and please reach out to any of us, but also pay a visit to our member organizations as well. Thank you so much. Take care now.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.